Welcome to Who Put This On, Season 5, Episode 9, where we watch Indian Matchmaking, Season 1, Episode 1, and Episode 5. I'm Chris Lorenz, and we have a special guest this week, Anshul.
Hey, Chris.
Who else is here this week?
Robert Kitts.
Noah Singer.
And Brian.
All right, well, if this is your first time, we watch a different reality show each week, and we'll watch an episode or two to get a nice flavor for the episode, and we'll go over all the minutia you could ever want and desire for that episode. So this week we watch Indian Matchmaking, which is the description Netflix gives us. In a world of billions, they're searching for the one. It'll take kismet, compromise, and one woman playing Cupid. Indian Matchmaking on Netflix. Rob, what actually is this show? Can you boil this down a little bit for me?
So this show is partly a dating show. It's partly meeting some people, trying to find out what they're interested in, and seeing them go on some dates. But it's also a show with a key main character. Seema, I think was her name.
And she is a Temperia.
Temperia, yeah.
Anshul, give us the good
I want to
pronunciation.
apologize right now for how we're going to butcher everyone's name in this show. We're not Indian. We don't know how to enunciate any of these names, so I
apologize
right off the bat.
I'll try to help out.
Yeah, the we're not Indian is not 100% correct.
That's fair. Good point. Rob, continue on.
So Seema is a professional matchmaker, and she, talks about how there's two kinds of marriages. There's marriages and there's love marriages, and she handles the first kind. And sometimes just some families gotta get together, and they need a little bit of help to find the right person. And so it's about seeing her process and meeting some real nuts people who are trying to find some people to get married to.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the grand scheme of things, it's very similar to other love shows we've watched. It's like if Dr. Pepper had their own show.
I really want a separate show that is Seema's process versus Dr. Pepper's process, just breaking down the two and having them compare notes on who they think are good matches for people. I think that'd be a good show.
Did Dr. Pepper's have a register that could have been Excelized?
I think Dr. Pepper did use Excel.
She's ahead.
She's ahead.
What about astrology, though?
I don't think Dr. Pepper used any astrology.
So that department, Seema is ahead. This does sound an interesting show.
Define ahead. I don't know. Okay, let's roll back here. So the show starts out with an intro of Seema and an intro of the various characters, or I guess not characters, the real people trying to find a match through this matchmaker, Seema. So we've got Aparna. She's got a bunch of requirements. She lives in Houston. Then we've got Pradyuman.
Human, yeah. Pretty close.
Yeah, he's in Mumbai. Family jewelry store. Then we've got who the hell knows else we got? We got Nadia from New Jersey, Morris Plains, New Jersey. And then in episode 5, we got introduced to another couple people, which is, who do we get introduced to? Akshay,
yeah. And
we've got Vyasar.
Yes.
So I think, is that all the people on the show?
No.
Okay.
There's
we'll get to that.
There's a bunch.
So while we watch this and we discuss it, Anshul has seen the whole series, so he can spoil anything that we have questions about, and he can provide insight into the actual arranged marriage situation. Because where did you grow up, Anshul?
I grew up in New Delhi, India. I would add, I am not an expert in the department.
Okay, well, I didn't say
But-
you were
but-
you're more of an expert than anyone else here.
Yes. I
And
can
most
definitely
people-
provide context.
And most people watching the show too. So
Yes. And I have been in a bunch of chat groups with people in India who have been, and we've been diving pretty deep into the show.
okay. All right.
Anshul,
So that-
are you married?
No.
Are you looking for a marriage or a love marriage?
I mean, no.
do you want us to give your email out in the end of the episode?
Feel free. My family and groups of friends, we've all talked about like hiring Seema for me. I'm all bored. And
Oh,
even-
nice.
Yeah, I mean, they're mostly joking, but like, I am all aboard someone else doing all the hard work and me just chilling and just like rejecting people or, going. It's basically having someone else take care of Tinder and then you go ahead and then approve or disapprove at like the last level.
For real? Get her price. I'll donate some.
I've heard it's around like 5K.
That's it.
That's it.
That doesn't
Yeah,
seem like a
it-
lot.
Easy.
I'm gonna start a GoFundMe for you.
Thank you, Noah.
Oh, wait, like, should we be talking about hiring Seema for Anshul, or should we be talking about Indian Matchmaking Season 2 and getting Anshul on the show and then come back to
That
the
has
pod?
also been suggested.
Give us the insights to the production schedule, which is the real thing we want to know.
Well, we got to get to that later, Brian. Rob, we can't talk about production right now.
Yeah, I'm with Rob. I'm more interested on that side of it for sure.
All right. So let's start digging into the minutia here, guys.
Mhm.
Let's talk about Seema. I feel like the host might be the like she is the star of the show. And she's in the show a lot, but don't have a great idea of like her process here. So she goes, interviews the family and the person, and then tries to match them via like paper, like stuff that she's printed out.
The bio data.
The bio
Yes.
data.
Noah is right. That's the key.
The bio data.
Well,
Yeah.
she has this giant binder full of her handwritten notes on all these people, which, like we were saying, we already mentioned in the pod, she's really got to start learning to use Microsoft Excel and getting a better way to scrub this data, because they so are being like, what about this person? Oh wait, they're already married.
But when these people get the proposal or like, hey, you might like this person, it's a printed out two-pager on like who they are, who their family is, where they're from, what their likes, what their dislikes are, what they're like. Essentially, they have the same thing about them that they've given to the other person, but now they've got it about this other person. So it's not like she doesn't have it in a computer somewhere, right?
Do you think the binder was just for show for the TV, and she doesn't actually use that binder?
No, that was too big.
No, I think the binder is an index. It said index on it. And then there's like a separate database that she has, which has the details.
Yeah, I don't know if she knows how databases work, but they usually have indexes.
Yeah, no.
It could be that she's just been doing this so long. That's how she was doing it. She's making enough money where it doesn't really matter. She just pays somebody to deal with it now. And this is how she just does it. You know?
Well, so,
Totally.
so they briefly went over her process, which was how does she find people? She socializes. That's her source of getting in touch with potential customers. The next step is getting information. So once they get in touch with her, she gets the information. And the next part is matching that information. And it's generic enough where, to be honest, I think she just bases it on high-level factors like income, height, sadly, religion and caste, those sort of things, and that matches those part. And then the rest of it, like, it was very generic things like, oh, cares about family. Well, yeah, most people say that. Likes to work. Okay, sure. You can pick out who likes to, who doesn't. So I think her process is pretty vague in terms of like, it's not really data driven.
I'm sure it's data driven in some way because like she's
Sorry.
successful.
Yeah.
So-
No, it's not data driven in terms of like going deep into the details. It's data driven in terms of like just matching like high level factors of like you kept hearing tall, slim, and fair.
Yeah, she's
like,
learned
matching
how the
that.
system works.
And like basically matching caste and like backgrounds of people.
I mean, so on the grand scheme of thing here, if you are the top matchmaker in India, so if you are that person and the people that are like, oh, I need the top matchmaker, so that she just has the bigger pool of people to get the better fine grained matches. That's like, it's just like how Facebook wins because it has billions of people in it, because all your friends are there. Everyone has one. It's like the bigger dating pool you have, the better matches you can make, the more, the more people you can get. Like it all builds into that. And
In her case, there's a tipping point. There's a point at which she's popular enough that now people are just coming to her because of her reputation. Like, for example, after this show, her business would have skyrocketed.
Oh yeah, that 5K, that's old money now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like 10, double, triple, quadruple, maybe.
You can probably get 25K now.
For Anshul, it's worth it.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you,
if you get
guys.
on the show, you probably get a discount,
Oh, obviously.
like that below deck show.
We can
Yeah,
help
there's
provide some entertainment.
Yeah, for her business, I don't think you go the Tinder route where more is more. I actually think she actually has a nice selection bias already with her population. So I think it's actually kind of she needs to be smart with how she's acquiring customers. And then I agree with Anshul. Then she's basically just narrowing choices where you even see during the show, she has a negative attitude towards people who want more choice from her. It's like, no, you got 3 to 5. That's who you're going to marry. Deal with it.
I mean, you might be right. Like if somebody's paying you 5K, but in terms of like, hey, hey, let me get your profile and maybe you're open to it. And it, like, I don't know if that's like how immediate this process is. Like if you're Anshul, you give her 5K and she never finds you a match, like what is that 5K for? To be in her database? To give you a match immediately? Like, how does she build this database to give to people?
Yeah, I think the building the database is completely crowdsourced. It's just her reputation and then people reaching out to her and asking. For example, that mom of Akshay's has been reaching out to her specifically for a long time. And those guys are freaking rich, is what they showed basically in the show.
Super rich. We'll get into that.
Yeah. So, like, she's been reaching out specifically to her, and she got her details not through the internet, not through some sort of like advertising. It's all word of mouth. So like at this point, her entire circle is using her, and these super rich people in Bombay are relying on her to just find matches. And like that's basically the source of data.
So Anshul, when we're talking about somebody from New Jersey here, you're saying that their family is rich enough that they're in the same circle that she's willing to matchmake these people for? Like there's a certain level of rich you have to
No. Yeah, so there's two sides of it. One is having these clients in the US does help her reputation, because there's definitely like a certain percentage of people who are looking for who judge reputation by, oh, she also does business in the US, which is like US is looked up to still with really high standards in India.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes after this year. But,
yeah. So basically, that's part of her business strategy. The other side of it, which she kind of hints at in the show, is she really enjoys traveling. So this is enabling her traveling essentially all across the US. So yeah, like there's like two different sides of it. One is that super rich family in Bombay. And then the other side of it is these people in New Jersey who can probably pay similar amounts as those guys, and will enable her essentially to grow her brand.
And Texas, don't forget Texas,
Houston.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over each of the people and the minutia we want to talk about. So we've got our first person, which is Aparna. She's in Houston. She's 34. She's 34.
Good job, Chris.
And I don't, Rob, can you just give a brief overview of Aparna?
And then I will describe her in one word after Rob's done.
I was tempted to go that route, so I'll let Anshul do it. So, Aparna's a lawyer, and she's described how her whole life she's been striving to really excel, been focused on going to college and focused on getting degrees. We meet her mom, who says, my lessons in life were it's not good enough for you to get 2 degrees, you got to get 3 degrees. And she's been trying to go and work really hard. And she's very sure of herself and very much sort of someone who wants exactly what she wants. And she doesn't really seem to think that when you meet someone, you should really try to mesh with them. They should just be exactly what you want them to be. And as she said, she has friends who have husbands, and they're like, yeah, they hang out with their husbands all the time. She's like, why would you want to hang out with your husband all the time? That seems terrible. Like, that you have to like them and stuff. And so, Anshul, how would you describe her?
Do you want to talk about her Bolivian salt flats before I say something?
You should say your thing, and then
I have the requirements.
We'll get back
right
to the
now.
Bolivian salt flats.
In one word, she's batshit crazy.
That's 2 words or 3.
That's actually not the word I thought you were going to go with. I thought you were going to go with the word that rhymes with rich.
So I've been very careful about calling her that, and I waited till my niece and my female friends from India texted me. She is exactly that.
I see.
She is so rude, like unbelievably rude in some of the episodes you guys didn't see.
Okay, let's go over her requirements. I have like 9 out of 10 of them. They went by really fast.
Well, we should just talk like the show has them talking to Seema and giving what they want, and then it cuts to a screen with text that is putting bullet points of the requirements on the screen, and it's just kind of subtly snarky in a great way. And I really love this part of the show.
Yeah. So we've got her first requirement is a North Indian American guy.
No.
No?
Like, I don't know what that means, but that's her first requirement. Then it's not the funniest guy in the room. And should know what Bolivia has salt flats.
Chris, I think we gotta give the whole story on the Bolivian salt flats.
So she tells a story about how she loves to travel, and she went on a date with somebody, and she's like, I want to go to Bolivia during the monsoon season to see the flamingos in the like pink lakes, because Bolivia has salt flats. And you're like, and the guy didn't know, which I am only tangentially aware that that's a thing. So that was a deal breaker.
Let's be honest. How many people here knew about this?
Not at all.
Nobody.
But also,
honestly, this week I watched a video on SciShow about flamingos and salt and like acidic lakes. I just didn't know where they were.
I mean, I don't think they're only in Bolivia. Salt flats can exist in other places.
Yeah, I didn't know Bolivia had them.
Well, Chris, maybe you're the match. Maybe this is your chance.
Maybe. I mean, I'm gonna vote no on this one, Rob, because her other look. We gotta go to this. So like, first thing we hear from her is she's talking to like her friends or family, and she's like, yeah, I started to date this guy from, what was it, like Ohio State, and he was like all into football, and it was like, and she's like, you're not getting me to go to a game, not doing any of that. Screw this and screw you, I'm out of there. And I'm like, well, I watch football, so I'm already disqualified, Rob.
Chris, you gotta adapt to her. Be flexible. That's the show talks about being flexible a lot.
I like that her description was he went to Ohio State, that school where they like football. As if like there's only one. It's that one. Let's talk about the flexible thing though.
Hold on, we got to get back to that. We haven't done all the requirements, Rob.
Okay, we'll come back to flexible later.
So one of the requirements was passions outside of work, which might include football, something like that. I don't know.
But obviously that doesn't count.
Active father, which wasn't touched on at all, just kind of crossed over. They shouldn't want the same thing, and well dressed were her requirements. Some of those they didn't even discuss, so I
Well,
don't know if they come up
the,
later.
the well-dressed thing was she's like, he can talk about if he has his own style eventually, but not right away.
Yeah, didn't they go into? She has another room that is her closet that just has like giant.
No,
shoe
that was her
trees.
room. That was just her room with
Oh,
No.
40 pairs of shoes in it and 20 in the closet.
But no, she called it her closet. Like it's a different room in the house
Yeah.
that's just a room full of shoes and clothes, and so that's her closet. So, like if you had a 2-bedroom apartment and you say this one is my bedroom and this one is my closet, like that. I don't think she was in 2 bedroom. I think she was in a bigger house, but that's the idea.
yeah. So let's go back to this flexible, Rob.
Mhm.
How flexible do you need to be?
It seems like all these people want someone to be flexible in that they will agree to whatever they say, but they don't want to be flexible back in agreeing that they're not the person they're matching with is not perfect.
But Rob, I'm paying this person $5K. Why do I need to be flexible?
I
It's
guess
not-
that's fair.
Yeah,
No.
it's not Seema that has to be flexible. It's the woman who's gonna get married who has to be flexible. So the key part there is not the guy. The guy doesn't have to do jack shit. It's the female who gets married. The woman has to be flexible. Like they'll constantly keep saying the woman has to be flexible.
Is Aperno someone who thinks that the guy doesn't have to be flexible?
Aparna, no. Aparna wants the idea of a partner, not a partner.
I mean, that's pretty clear.
Here I thought we were just talking about yoga.
It really seems like she wants to get married just because she's like, I guess I'm 34, I should be married by now, and not because
Yeah,
she actually has a desire to have a life partner to go through life with.
My friends are getting married. I have to get married, right? Right.
It definitely seems like more of the mom influence. So like the mom comes in and she says like when she was 3, she told both her daughters to don't ever let me down. Like that's perfectly normal thing to say to a 3-year-old daughter. And then like has probably continued that till she's 34. And like she's like letting her mom down by not getting married and not having kids. But she doesn't really act in any way where that's a reasonable thing or act like that's a thing she really wants.
Chris, I will say I'm real impressed right now. You picked up on that detail just from that much. The show, as it goes on, the mom comes off as the craziest person ever.
Oh yeah, she definitely seems crazy. She broke her daughter. Like you don't grow up this way without being like in a household where this is very normal. And that's just broken.
She's just so crazy. Like you think Aparna is crazy, and then eventually the show goes on, and you're like, I know why she's crazy.
Oh, I knew immediately. As soon as the mom they went over a little bit of the backstory, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand. Fully understand.
It was very telling for me that Seema was presenting a guy she thought Aparna should go on a date with, and gave the bio data to the mom to read. And then only after the mom was done with it did she give it to Aparna.
So that is actually pretty common in terms of a traditional family, because the parents make the decision. So the parents get the information, and then in this case, at least people get to say yes or no. Like when those parents got married, they didn't even get a chance to do that. Like they were basically told, this is the person, we met the family, and now you're done. You're approved.
Yeah, I have a question, Anshul. Like, there's some gender dynamics going on here where the moms are very involved, at least in the relationships we saw, where they see the paperwork, they pass it, but the dads nothing to do with this. Like,
yeah, I mean,
they're barely in the show.
So there's a there's a very clear evidence of like how India is a patriarchy. In terms of like the dad has basically offloaded this work to the mom, and she is responsible for it, and all the dad gets to do is approve or disapprove. That's all he will do. Like he's not going to put in any effort in this situation. She's going to do all the legwork. She's going to do all the setup, all the planning, all approving this. Like she's basically providing him another filter, and then he gets the final say.
it didn't seem like the dads wanted anything to do with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And the moms just seem very invested.
It's kind of like a cultural thing where it's eventually become this thing where like the moms need to take care of it, and then the dads have to approve it, and then eventually like also there's like a touch of like when it's a boy, generally the mom's more involved. When it's the daughter, the dad's more involved. But it also varies with families. But yeah, like in the cases we saw, most of the time it was moms, which is pretty common. Yeah, more than dads. Dads are doing nothing. They're going to work. They're coming home. They're getting treated as kings. They basically act as the executive branch.
All right. Well, thank you for telling us that. I mean, it became pretty clear, especially in episode 5, like what was going on, but it seems a little off from like an American standpoint. But.
Oh yeah, it's even off as an Indian from a modern Indian standpoint. I can tell you.
So at the end of episode 1, we have Aparna. She gets a proposal from Seema. And he is a successful podcast host. As you know, I am a successful podcast host. So.
There's a lot of connections between Aparna and Chris.
Yeah.
I'm scratching my head.
I think Aparna hasn't been able to find her right match yet, because her right match it might be on this pod right now.
Who knows what happens at the end of the season? You never know. Which is she immediately looks at it and she's like, she hates comedy, and the guy's some sort of comedian and he's 7 years older, and she's already super negative about this whole thing, and we don't even get to see the date at all. But
her
by watching episode
words,
5,
sorry Chris, her exact words were, "I hate a sense of humor."
Is that like the most lawyer thing you could ever say?
It's the most Aparna thing you can say. I think I know a few lawyers. They're pretty funny.
No, I know, but like the picture of a lawyer, they're just like not funny, right?
Yeah, the caricature. Quick take. Do you think Aparna's hamming it up to get that airtime, such as she parlays it into something bigger?
0%.
Zero.
I think she's
crazy now.
I think she is toning it down.
Yeah.
I think that she's crazier than she looks, especially in episode 1.
So
she
obviously comes off pretty poor in the show. Yet for the past several minutes, I've been going deep in the corner. He's very proud of being on the show and all the publicity it's getting. I find it at odds that she'd be okay with how she's presented.
I think she thinks it's normal. I don't think you understand like her psychosis.
Yeah, she like in the show also sometimes mentions, she's like, I don't think I'm narcissistic. She's 100% narcissistic through the show, and it only gets worse as you watch the show. And she, I think, enjoys the attention that she was getting.
No, I'd actually agree with you if it was like season 6. On season 1, if you're going on this show, you're taking a big risk by trying to like ham it up, because it could be successful, but more than likely it's going to fail. Season 6, like it's kind of like Shark Tank, where like, oh yeah, like they were heavily filtering like all these pitches, and then now it's just like an advertisement for new products.
I think most people on the show were themselves. I don't think a lot of them really changed themselves too much. Obviously they did because the cameras are around, but I don't think it was like a level that they're completely different people.
Yeah. I guess let's go over what happens in episode 5 as well. If you don't want to be spoiled, I mean, sorry. So she starts dating a guy named Jay by the time episode 5 comes around, and they go on a date where they do goat yoga petting, which is, I am guessing mostly for the show. Like it's a very funny visual. Like it was an interesting thing to see.
I definitely heard of Yeah, I've definitely heard of goat yoga before, and cat yoga is another similar thing, although goats are way bigger than cats and less intrusive on the whole yoga thing.
So, Brian, explain to us the idea behind goat yoga.
So the general idea behind this like whole animal yoga thing is that like you're doing yoga, but then these animals are just hanging out with you. So then like they could be getting in your way from like doing these moves. They could be like jumping on you. They could be like being all cute and stuff and you want to pet them, but like it's just a general fun thing. And usually it's going to be less about the yoga and more about the animals.
Brian, put that fun in quotes.
So connecting to another reality show, Goat Yoga was pitched on Tank.
Really?
Oh, a lot of Shark Tank talk this week.
Yeah, they branded it Goga. Yeah, they were looking to Shark Tank to expand their operations, to open up new locations because of being successful in Texas, actually.
Did any sharks go for it or no?
No, they basically laughed them out of the room.
Mark Cuban's in.
I mean, one of the things that made me really see Aparna's like her real personality was like Jay was like, do you think, I have this controversial opinion about our wedding? And he was like, I don't think we should have kids at our wedding. And she was like, what? Absolutely not. I don't want to see a child at my wedding ever. Like, obviously, what do you mean? And she goes on to some diatribe about how she like doesn't like kids yelling and like, I don't know what the hell her opinion was, but
they don't cost anything, but they yell a lot or they're loud.
Yeah.
The key moment for me was when she then goes, wait, is that controversial?
Yeah.
And Jay like waits a beat and goes, yeah.
Jay is a trooper here. Jay is being flexible.
Jay's being real flexible. And I think Jay maybe can do better. I think maybe Jay should set his sights higher.
I agree with Rob. Jay was willing to look past so many things. I think he was talking to a different person when he kept calling her flexible and nice and, wholesome.
One of the things that was interesting to me on this date, like, I would usually think, like, oh, I'm going to somebody for, like, to help me with, like, a relationship. Like, they would give, like, dating advice. Like, actually, like, advice for the date because, yeah, like, you can kind of, like, figure out maybe I'm, like, compatible. But usually there's something you do wrong on the date. So it's, like, I didn't realize, like, there were, like, no tips or anything. It's just, like, hey, you're just going for this.
It's insane.
Seema's not giving you tips for the date. She's just matching you.
Yeah, it's going to work or not.
This isn't Married at First Sight where they're helping you, compatibility wise. No, you're on your own.
Hey, you got that astrology compatibility.
Oh man, that's a whole thing. But for Seema, brings up a good point. I wonder how much she filters the bio data to really spark it up a little bit.
I mean, you have to, obviously.
So I think we should move on from Aparna. I can do a whole series about Aparna.
I have the next human lined up.
Yeah, but like Noah brought up a point which might be interesting in terms of the third person we talked about was Nadia. In her case, she filtered out where she is Guyanese but of Indian origin. So she found specifically a Guyanese guy of Indian origin for her, which seems really hard to find.
Well, on that point, is she finding these people? Like, she like reaching out to all her friends? Like, did this person of Guyanese descent that she found pay her $5,000? Or was this part of the $5,000 price that Nadia paid to find somebody?
No, I think those are two separate clients. And I think there's a sense of also a network. She probably has matchmakers in the US that she reaches out to and gets these people from. Because like I can't imagine her just having this guy ready to go for her.
Well, that's my thing. It's like, okay, you're paying this person. Is the other person paying at the same time?
I would assume so. Like the other person's paying someone, whether it's her or someone else is unclear. But like both these people are paying someone.
Paying a certain matchmaker.
Yeah.
Alright.
It's just Tinder Premium. Both
Let's
people are
go.
paying.
Let's go to the next person.
How does
Wait,
the
I do wonder when you're getting very specific in your search, Guyanese American, Indian American. Do you think they then go on to like shoddy.com and Tinder, and then the matchmaker goes fishing to be like, oh, let's get one in, pass them on?
Could be.
Not when you're the top matchmaker, but if you're like actual trying to be a matchmaker, maybe.
also if you're trying to get a non-love marriage out of this, I don't think you go on Tinder. I think most people on Tinder are going more the love route or the hookup route than the marriage after 3 dates route.
Yeah, Tinder, but there's. I was looking at New York Times. They said there's over 1,500 Indian matchmaking sites.
Yeah.
Right. So through that maze, right,
Mm.
you kind of say, like, oh, I need to go like spearfishing. Got one.
She might be. She might be reaching out to them directly and then making them clients.
So if I pay one matchmaker and someone else pays a different matchmaker and they talk to each other because our interests are compatible, is there any exchange of funds either way, or is it just like, hey, we're just helping each other out, getting the matches and getting satisfied clients?
I
All right,
don't know.
guys, we can't. Let's just move on.
Oh, Chris, this is some good minutia.
No way there's money sharing. It's just, hey, we're all making money. It's good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
One last question on
Okay.
wait on the money. Anshul, you may know this. Is it a multiple payment plan where like
No idea. I don't know anything about. We tried to figure this out. We didn't know if like every date you went on you paid, or when you got married you paid, or like we have no idea about the model.
So I guess on that note, there is a like, what is it? On Frasier, there's like a whole series of episodes where Frasier signs up for a matchmaker. I'd highly recommend those episodes. It's pretty funny. But he paid like 10K in the 90s. So like, can't imagine this person's only 5K.
Yeah, I mean those are just like numbers I've heard from people. It could definitely be higher.
Maybe she charges 5K in India, but if you're in the US, she charges like 50K.
All right. So our next person is Prad Human. He's in Mumbai. His family runs a jewelry store. Unclear what he does. But he loves cooking, which we got this cooking segment is amazing.
So this is pretty common in India in terms of like if your family owns a massive business, as a child you don't have an option. You are basically signed up to be the next person to run that business. So he's basically doing whatever that shop needs him to do.
So he has an older brother.
No, that's the other guy. That's
Other
Akshay.
guy? I thought they both. Oh, he has a brother.
No, he has. So Pradyuman has a sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Akshay has a brother.
Okay. All right. Well, I just knew that he had to get married this year, and the other sibling had to has a baby next year.
You're thinking about Akshay again, Chris. You're getting them confused.
I'm getting them confused.
Yeah, 100%.
So Pradyuman is the guy who first
Oh,
does the
yeah.
crazy
You're right. I
cooking
am
and then
getting
has a closet that he refuses to come out from.
Yeah,
Anshul,
you're right.
Tell
I
me
am getting
about the door handles in his house.
So those might be the most brilliant idea I've ever seen. Take your Instagram feed, pick your favorite profile pic, get it printed, and put it in your door handle. That's what that was. His door handles are basically photos of himself.
I can't imagine what is going on with India right now. You've got this girl that has to be perfect and is like really rude, and then you've got this guy that's so self-obsessed. He's got photos of himself all over the place, including his closet, his door handle, and he can't like. It is obnoxious.
Yeah, these two were definitely the insanos. I mean, again, like you gotta realize, right? Like they're only gonna pick the interesting people.
No, I know. This is a reality show pick for sure.
Yeah. So like they did try to put in like a couple of wholesome people. So Nadia was the third person. When we get to her, we'll talk about her more. But like she was more wholesome than anyone else. And then we got a brief glimpse of Yasser. He is an absolute joy to watch in the show. He's like the nicest, funnest guy. Like he's like the sort of guy we would hang out with on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll get to him. But yeah. So Pride Human, I love the cooking. So like he is cooking in this kitchen. He's making these obnoxious, I don't know, fancy meals, and then his like servant or like chef would bring his other servant would bring out the food that he made, and then he would give to his family and Seema, and like literally there's this like cocktail and the napkin was like money. Like instead of a napkin, it was money.
It was a 5-pound bill.
Like that's not even Indian money, right?
Yeah.
That's UK money. Just like
so let me just explain his cooking in one scene itself. He has liquid nitrogen at home for making snacks.
That's a really good point.
Is that just for making snacks or just for this episode to make?
It doesn't matter. You have
So-
liquid nitrogen at home. Just
He knows how
hang
to
out.
use it. He knows how to use it.
It's
So
true.
he's definitely done it before. So the snack he's serving is called makhana in India, and it's literally a snack you just serve with tea at like 4 p.m. with like when you just want something to snack on. And his mom is orgasming on these nitrogen makhanas, and that's my favorite scene from the show.
Yeah, that's a good scene. Then at some point he brings out this flaming dish, like it's really on fire. And Anshul, do they have smoke detectors in India?
No, the only the first smoke detector I saw was when I moved to Atlanta.
Okay. All right. Just want to clarify for the audience that
Yeah.
most of the buildings in India are also like cement like ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like fire is not as detrimental as all our wood buildings that we
Yeah,
have.
fire code isn't a real thing in India.
Yeah. Do we have any other minutia to talk about this guy?
Well, his big thing is he looks at all the pictures and decides he doesn't like them based on the pictures. And Seema says, this is going to be a really hard one, which she says about every single one. And her thing is he's got to stop worrying with the pictures and just go on some dates and be more open to the process.
I do have his requirements. Here's what they were. They were attraction, number 1, mental and physical.
Gotta have mental.
Willing to grow and fix
Physical
flaws.
and mental.
Yeah. Fix their flaws. Their flaws. Not his flaws. Fix their flaws. And family compatibility was number 3. That was it. That's all he's got. You know, it's easy. Easy, Rob.
Solid list.
Solid.
Do we also want to talk about his date right now or later?
His date was in episode 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rashali, she was a model.
Yeah, Roshali was a model from Delhi who's trying to be an actor, so she's in Bombay.
And they go on some sort of horse date where they like go to the horse stalls
And have the
Like-
best cat scene in the show.
and get like walked
Oh.
around by some guys with a horse.
No
Yeah.
one knows how to ride horses unless your family's in the army or something.
I'm just confused a little bit about like the guy shows up and he says like, yeah, this is the best place in Mumbai. And I was like, that can't smell good. You're right next to the horse stalls. Like, absolutely not. Is that the best place in Mumbai? Like, you're an idiot. And then
Was
she
that, like-
agreed. I was so confused.
I was confused because like I thought that was like a restaurant, but maybe not.
I don't
Like-
know.
No, it was probably like an exclusive, like a fancy club, where they have horses and then like super rich people go there and they have like some sort of food being served. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's pretty common or like a famous place or anything. I don't know too much about Bombay, so like I could be wrong.
They're dealing with the smell then.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, there isn't really much to say about it other than this was his first date on the show, right? Anshul?
Yes, he does. He does not feel attraction to any girls, which is basically when a bunch of my friends from India went. He might be gay and doesn't know it yet, and the closet analogy then just like his love for the closet then just like was just the perfect pun for the moment.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one thinking that. And also the big closet metaphor.
I like
All
that
right.
he had a lock to get into his closet, and then in the closet there's also a safe with another lock on it.
I'm pretty
Like-
sure the closet also had a lock.
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
closet. There was a keypad to get just into the closet at all.
No,
And
that
it's
was
like-
the room.
Oh, that
There's
was
a
the
keypad-
room.
Yeah, there's a keypad. There's a finger scanner to get into the room. Then I think there's a keypad on the closet, and then the safe in there.
So if we're talking in like 100% or like 99% in terms of how rich you are in like India, if you have like these locks, does that automatically put you in like the top 1%? Like,
He's probably in the top 1%. Like he owns a jewelry business which deals with diamonds, and it's his. He has liquid nitrogen in his kitchen. So like
true.
Liquid nitrogen is not that expensive. Like
it's
you
not
can
a.
have for like $170.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
The idea
But
is
it's
not
not-
that.
The idea is not he can afford it. The idea is that he thinks he can use it at home and just feels like experimenting with it. It's just not a thing you do normally. But yeah,
Alright.
no, he's definitely in the top 1%. Like he
Okay.
owns a diamond business. He's making bank and paying zero taxes
What?
The
Why
true
would you say he's
son of
making
love.
zero taxes?
because that's what you do in India. If you run a business, you don't pay taxes.
So that sounds good for the overall economy. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Nadia. She's from Morris Plains, New Jersey. She's a wedding planner. She's from Guyana, but originally from her ancestry is from India. Her preferences were tall, passionate, ambitious, smart, funny, open-minded, likes to travel. She seemed very normal. She seemed the most normal of the three in the first episode.
It was kind of shocking meeting Nadia after going through Aparna and what was the guy's name again? Pradyuman. Because it's like Nadia just seems like a normal person. What's going on? Like this is I don't understand.
Yeah.
But then like the Guyana thing turned out to be her very challenging situation.
Which I found really surprising.
like, would you think that's challenging, Anshul? Like,
I mean, so I didn't think it was, but clearly she says it is. So like it clearly is. Like, so one of the things I found really fascinating in the show was all of these first generation Indian Americans who are so deep into just finding an Indian person and from like the same religion or same caste or some of these like regressive thoughts that I would expect people who've been exposed to like slightly more open, slightly more of the world are over. We're still very committed to it, or like we're experiencing it. So like Nadia is one of those people who's like she seemed like a really normal American, like American Indian, but like apparently her Guyanese descent makes it really hard for her to find people, which I find crazy. Like she seems the most normal, the most fun out of all of the women on the show. I would totally go on a date with her. If you can set that up, Chris.
I'll look into it.
I will take that on.
Thank you,
Noah's
Noah.
got it. Noah's the social media manager of Who Put This On, so he's got it.
Well,
I mean, she goes like Bollywood dancing, like, and she tries to stay. She claims to stay busy to remember that she's not single or like not focus on the fact that she's still single. Very, I mean, kind of normal things, I guess, for people.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious. Nadia wasn't in episode 5, and I was without getting any spoilers. I was like, does that mean she finds someone in episode 3 and is just off the show because it's like success and I found my guy and I'm just not in the show anymore?
Not by episode 5.
Oh, okay.
That's the least spoiler I can give.
So she does get a proposal at the end of this episode,
I love that they call it a proposal.
which is, so the only thing I wrote down was that he was a Giants fan, which is terrible. That's really gross. Don't do that.
Yeah, because
And
you don't
he's
want anyone
like-
who likes football, right? Just like Aparna.
No, there's no football loving in India. You can't. not having any of it.
You can't hate on me, Chris.
I know. I'm not hate. It was more sarcasm. If you can't.
I know.
And he was like half Guyanese. So, or at least some Guyanese descent. That was about it for her. I guess the other person we need to talk about is Akshay, which gets introduced in episode 5. And he's in Mumbai. He's his criteria is
It's not his criteria.
It's interesting. I was just gonna say, because it's not his criteria. The mom gives his criteria, which then when asked what his criteria was, he's like, whatever my mom said.
And later he says, my mom. Exactly like my mom.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah,
This is not good.
the most, I don't know if cringeworthy is the right term. Like maybe concerning is actually
The ultimate mama's boy. Like he gives this story where he goes to Boston and he's like, I had to do all this stuff by myself. Like I had to do laundry, I had to clean my dishes, I had to like eat.
I had to eat food.
I had to eat food. It wasn't just being fed to me. Like
Yeah.
clearly sheltered mama's boy. But they seem super rich.
They were definitely the richest on the show. So there's a point later in the show where he's just sitting in a bomber jacket, and I was watching it with a few people, and one of them just went, how much do you think that costs? Like $1,500? Like, yeah, probably 1,000. Like, it's crazy expensive. And like we should all get one of these. And then one of us looked it up. It was $3,500 for a bomber jacket. And he was chilling at home.
I mean,
So yeah,
Might as
he's
well.
balling rich.
So this was the person where like he has a sister, right? So
No, this is the one with the brother.
So he has to get married this year, and the brother has to have a child next year.
Right. And the brother cannot have a child till he gets married because the mom has a timetable. It's a sequential order. Everything is connected.
Is this normal, Anshul? Like, do you know people where like
Yes.
there's this timetable with the mom
Yes.
and setting this all up?
Yeah. Sadly, everything that you saw is not a very uncommon thing. I wouldn't say it's very common. It's not common in our circles or like the circles that you guys have met and the circles I grew up in. But I definitely know families. I know extended, friends and families who definitely are in the same mode of you are in your 20s. The moment you enter your 20s, you got to get married. And the reason you need to get married is because you're attention for your parents.
Like, your attention from your parents?
Your attention, she mentions it like my blood pressure goes up because he's 25 and he's not married. Like, how can that happen?
Yeah, I'm sure. I guess.
So like that sadly is a common thing, and it's definitely worse for women in those societies or in those subcultures than it is for men. So like for him, for example, getting at 25, he's getting harassed. Women, the moment they turn 18, they're getting harassed. Like by 21, they better be married.
But what happens? Like, okay, the mom says you have to have a kid next year.
You have to have a kid next year. What are you talking about?
What if you can't get pregnant? Like, that's a thing.
No, Chris, that is not a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
like,
sure. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a
wow.
lot of pressure on that front.
Yeah, it's a definitely a regressive version of society, and it's sadly still prevalent, and it's very prevalent in these massive business families, like business families that own really big businesses.
What makes it so, like, why is that unique about them?
It's
Because they
kind
have
of like
them-
a social status thing. So the show slightly goes into it in terms of like the mom's social life, where she's sitting with like 8 other copies of her, and they're basically talking about like each and everyone's family and kids and whether they're married or not. Like that's all they talk about. As someone who's been in that age group for a while, I can tell you when I go back, it's a pretty common question that people just like, they don't think it's inappropriate or anything. The only thing they want to talk about is when you're getting married. And like, these are way more progressive people than these people. So like, it's pretty common, sadly.
I mean, it's very easy to be cyclical, right? Like your mom was
Yeah.
like that, your grandmother was like that, and you have the money to be like that. Where you like, what else do these people do? Like, if you're not working and your kids are like, and all the people around you, they're like status symbols or their kids and how
Yeah.
many kids they're having, and you can't have grandkids till they get married, so you have to force them to get married. Like, it's definitely very much like a social circle kind of thing that you can buy into or not buy into. And
Yeah,
I
like-
think that most of America is not bought into like their grandparents when they did this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
And
like
like, if you think about it, like, why does he have to go to Boston College to study? He really doesn't. It's all for that status symbol. And I'll leave a little tidbit in here. I think it's like, it's a whole other thing, but like, there is something called as a marriage market in India, where there is a value for every guy, in terms of like how good they look, their education, their income, like all of these things. And based on that, they have a value based on which like they'll get married to families that can afford that value. Like, it is insane.
Wow.
Like, to me, it was crazy that that's a real thing, but it is.
it's economics instead of love.
100%.
Noah. This is not Love is Blind, Noah. This is Love is Economical.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I don't I disagree a little bit where it's like, well, your grandmother did it, your mother did it, because generally money gives you freedom to like actually not do the same thing as your parents did or your parents did. So like, I don't think the two things are correlated necessarily. I get how it is in this subset of the culture, but I don't think that's necessarily like all the time.
So yeah, so in this case, it's more about status symbol. There's a very common phrase in India called "What will the society think?" or "What will the society say?" So you basically referring to your culture, like people around you. What will they say? And it's real. It's for our age group. We've tried to convince our families that it doesn't matter what they'll say, right? Like, they it's taken time, but we've been able to do it. But like, some of these, like, you think Akshay is trying to teach his mom how to get better or how to learn these things. So that regressive cycle is not being broken in that case.
I have a question for you, Anshul. So right now it's pretty clear that Akshay, like the mom, is running this kind of like their son's lives, essentially, almost to a point. When they get married, like, when does Akshay lose power? Does she lose power ever?
No, it's so the whole reason the mom wants her to wants him to get married is social symbol, and she wants another person she can order around at home. So this wife that's coming in she's not going to be allowed to do her own thing. She's going to be basically told, you do this. She also brings it up briefly where she's like, oh, you come to my house, these are the rules, and you do what I tell you to do. So she's not really looking for a match for her son as much as she is looking for like a status symbol and an extra potential like domestic help.
Is it kind of like a trophy wife in a way?
It's more like a maid.
But okay, so she has power now. Like, at some point she loses it, right? Like, is there any point where she loses it? Or is her goal to like, oh, Akshay can't marry somebody like where somebody else will take the power away from me, so she has power till she dies.
So that's actually a great point in terms of, it's a really popular theme in Indian television to have the mother-in-law and the wife being in constant conflict. It's a really common theme on Indian television in general, where like the wife wants to take over the control, the mom doesn't want to let go. It just depends on the boy, which side is he leaning on. So to answer your question, in this case, it will be the day Akshay gives up control more to his wife than to his mom. And that really depends on his mom not giving up control over Akshay.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. Like,
It's a terrible dynamic. Yeah.
And the fact that like, are these women ever working out, like have their
She's
own
not
jobs?
going to be allowed to work. She is not going to be allowed to work for sure. So this is another challenge. So like, I can give you an example of my family. So like, my sister got married to her boyfriend, and her mother-in-law was not able to handle the fact that she wants to work, and she really wanted to work. Like, she's got her own thing, she's done great, so she wanted to continue working, and it basically came down to her husband, my brother-in-law, to say she does what she wants to do, and they as a couple agreed on it, and then they convinced the mom. In this case, that's just not happening.
Yeah,
There is
there's no
zero
way
chances.
that guy's like standing up to his mom.
No.
In any aspect.
No.
It's just not a great family to marry into if you want to have any autonomy. So you're telling me.
Yep.
But you get all those jewels, like
All those jewels.
And you have to pump out kids. You're getting
Well,
those jewels.
so. Anshul, what happens when they get married, and for some reason she can't have kids? Do they like divorce? They get divorced? Like what happens?
I don't even want to think about it. Like, I don't know enough about it, but like, I'm definitely leaning towards the negative side. Like, they're not gonna be open to adoption for sure. They're gonna blame it all on the wife, even if it's the guy's fault. It'll always be the girl's fault. And there's a very high chance that he gets married again to someone else. So
I mean, I was just curious. I mean, I assume that would be it. I think we're gonna skip over Vyasar. We've gone a little long. The last thing I think we got to talk about is the astronomy bit that goes on in this. Is
astrology, not astronomy.
So you guys didn't see that.
I wrote astrologer instead of astronomy, but
so there's this one scene in the show where Seema is like, "Hey, Aparna, you should go meet this astrologer. He'll help you understand yourself better." So this guy comes in, and he's called Pandit, which is basically a priest, and then his description says aerospace engineer. So, it could be any of those things.
Yeah,
he's a good bullshitter.
Like, there's just a scene with this astrologer and Seema where they're like, "Hey, what do the graphs look like for this? What about the graphs for that?" Like, what graphs? What is astrology graphs we talk? Like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And then he goes over personality quirks of these people and is like, "Have you met them? Like, do you know? Like, does she confirm these? Because she has met them. Like, this is just 100% factual, and like, we just give the data."
So like, it's horoscope nonsense.
Yeah, it's basically that. There's also that Rob's favorite part about numerology in there. Rob,
So they're talking about, I don't know where the number 17 came from. There's like, so 17, so it's 1 plus 7 is 8. And then they started going off on 8. It's like, why not choose 17? Like,
because 8's a good number. You want the good numbers, Rob. You don't want those bad numbers. 17's a bad number.
He said 8 was her primary number, and at first I thought he said 8 was the prime number. I'm like, 8's not a prime number. What are you guys doing?
No, it's primary, not prime. Come on.
Yeah, I got that by the end, but at one point I was definitely confused.
So Seema is not. She looks at matchmaking as she is doing God's work, because it's your destiny to find people and get married to them, and she's just enabling them. So she keeps talking about destiny and horoscopes constantly.
Yeah, Anshul, since India has lots of gods, which god or gods is she talking about?
So the advantage of having so many gods is you just pick whichever one suits you at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
To Noah message, we could talk about Vyasar for a little bit, but we see him. We don't know his criteria, but we find out he's a school teacher. Goes on a date with a woman named Manisha.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Manisha with an N.
Okay. Anyway, they eventually start talking and eventually call it quits after a bit. And that he seems like a pretty nice guy. Like, he's definitely like, I don't know how old he is.
Yeah,
like,
Vyasar's the heart of the show. He's like the wholesome guy that was very enjoyable to watch in this entire show, and like you wish was a part. Like that's how the process was.
Yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to bring him up. Just like he just seems like a really nice guy. Like he just seems good. And I was just like, oh man, like you really root for him, you know? And it's like, yeah, come on, yeah, so like you got it, man. So that's why I just wanted to bring him up.
Yeah, it seems like he got rejected because she wanted someone with more money, and she's like, you don't have enough money for me, which is like, you know, and he works in a school, and so a lot of his confessionals, he's just like sitting at a school desk, which at first was weird, and then Anshul filled me in that he worked at school. Like, okay, that's why. So yeah, so hopefully he pulls through and finds the right person.
Yeah, like when you watch the show, you'll love the guy.
Maybe Nadia and Visar. That's the key.
The most common theme on social media after the show came out was people fell in love with Nadia and Vyasar separately. So yeah,
not together.
I mean, that's up to them.
So Anshul, before we move on to our questions, what is the process here? So what I can never remember names. Seema comes in, gives you this proposal. You go on this date. How many dates do you go on? And then you say yes. You get married, and then then you start pumping out kids. Is that like the process here?
So the process varies. So for example, in Akshay's case, the process would be Seema comes in, gives a bunch of options to the mom. Then Preeti mom will decide which one, and then Akshay will be told you're getting married to this person. They'll meet the family, look at the financials, look at the horoscope. If they match, perfect, they'll get married. In the case of someone like Nadia or Vyasar, they would probably talk to this person for about 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever they need, and they'll basically date with the goal of getting married. Like Vyasar also brings it up briefly in terms of he basically is cutting out all the bullshit when it comes to dating in terms of like getting to a point before you can start talking about what you really truly believe in, because both people want to get married, so like they're trying to cut out all the bullshit of the small talk. So basically those guys will take their time and get to learn about the other person, and then decide. So yeah, it completely varies with the family and the person you're dealing with.
Seems very reasonable. All right, so we got our questions. Let's see. We didn't use this one last week, but I think we need to bring it back this week, and I think we all know who the answer is. But who is the worst human on the show? I think that we all kind of know who the answer is, Aparna, but if anyone else has any other choices.
Aparna is definitely the worst single. I don't know where I rank Seema in this personally, just like her trying to peddle all this shit.
But she's actually providing a service people hired her for. It's not like I don't see any worse than her at all.
Yeah, she's not tricking them. End of the day, people are making their own decisions. She's definitely cajoling them a little bit, or managing their process, but that's what they hired her for.
I might change my mind to like Akshay's mom or like some of these moms.
There you go.
Definitely be like we're the worst human beings.
What about Aparna's mom? Like Aparna's mom turned her into what she was.
It's true. Aparna's mom definitely caused this whole scenario where Aparna is considered, at least in the choices.
Yeah.
So I think you got to give. I think the moms are the answer for the worst person.
I agree.
In the episodes you watched, definitely the moms. There's definitely some nice moms as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's all the moms, but I think in terms of like, partner, I can never remember anyone's names.
Actually, you can like directly correlate it to the person itself. Like Nadia and Vyasar's mom, super cute, super nice. And then Akshay's and this guy's, Aparna's, are just like, oh boy.
So like we try to come up with a host question, but I feel like I'm going to add like, is this the apex downgrade or commercial for the host? I think that like we got to come up with some categories for hosts. We've seen a lot of commercial hosts. Like this is a commercial for her business. This is her thing. This is like we had a commercial host a couple weeks ago for that South bullshit show. So like, we're gonna play with that question. But.
So I can give you some insight. So I looked into this a little bit more. So the show was actually pitched in 2009, 2010 by someone in India. But at the time it got rejected, and then they proposed it again sometimes, like I think 3-4 years back to Netflix, and Netflix loved it. Which actually makes sense because like Netflix in India is much more our generation. So like it would definitely resonate or get a strong reaction. So like right now in India, you have two extremes. One who's just absolutely having a laugh out of it, calling out all of the regressive stuff from the society, and then just laughing about it. And then the other people who are offended by it. So it's definitely gotten a strong reaction in the young pop culture.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like this is definitely seems like a like showing Indian culture to like Indians or Americans, depending on who is actually watching it. Like goes both ways. Like
yeah,
it's a reflection of your culture at some point, and it's also like it's an intro to a culture. Like if you're not in it.
Yeah.
So
and I'll be honest. Like I think they've done a reasonable job at kicking some of the taboos associated with arranged marriage. Because like the assumption was basically, what's the process? Is it like you meet someone or you just like see photos and then say yes? Or is there a process? So I'm sure there will be more people who will be more open to meeting other people. Because essentially what she's doing is just being live Tinder for you or like live Bumble for you. Right? Like she's just curating the matches.
Our next question is, what is the most baffling / cringeworthy moment? I think that the cooking scene was pretty, like with the money as the napkin, was pretty baffling. The horse date was baffling to me, just in general.
The face on the doorknob was pretty baffling. I don't know if it was cringeworthy. It was definitely baffling.
Yeah, I mean,
it was pretty cringy.
Either way.
I think the cringeworthy was with what's I'm blanking on the name. The very first scene is a teaser of the guy we meet in episode 5.
Akshay.
The very first scene is a teaser of Akshay, and Seema's talking to the mom, and then they ask, Akshay, what do you think? And he just doesn't speak. It's just so weird.
My vote is for Aparna's when she got her one match because she was too picky, and then said, "Oh, it loves outdoors. I hate outdoors. Funny, hates the funny dude." Just like, ooh, how badly did you hit this?
Yeah, it's pretty cringy, I guess. Noah, do you have a section?
I'm going back to when Akshay admits that he really just wants to marry his mom.
Oh yeah.
All Joyce.
Yeah. I cringed through a lot of it, and I had a blast cringing through it, so I can't pick one. It's just so full of it.
Our next question is favorite minor minutia. And I can start out by a minor minutia we haven't talked about yet. Was when Vyasar and when he was dating in his date, Manisha, they were talking, and she said that you can't vacuum now, it's after dark. And apparently that's like a thing that in India where you can't vacuum in your house after dark due to some.
I don't think that's an India thing because both of them have grown up in the US.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's called
they're
Don't Be an
American.
I mean, don't vacuum at midnight, but if it's dark at 4:30, feel free to vacuum. I don't know.
I agree. Definitely, if the reference was to not vacuuming at 12 in the night, yes, definitely don't do that and be an ass to all your neighbors.
Yeah, but if you're in Houston or wherever they are, I don't know where they are. They might not have neighbors. You vacuum whatever the hell you want as long as you're not bothering.
You got other people living in your house.
It's not getting dark.
Vacuum away.
Rob, what's your favorite minor minutia?
The 5-pound bill as the napkin was definitely the best minor minutia. There's no question.
Yeah.
Mine was the liquid nitrogen. And then everyone just smoking the liquid nitrogen.
Noah, you got one?
Man, I'm trying to think of like any minutia that really stuck out. I don't think this is minutia because it really did pop, but the Bolivian salt mines or salt.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a solid choice.
that's a good
When you
choice.
hear that, you're like, who the fuck is this person?
That could also go
I-
for like cringeworthy moment too. Brian, what do you got?
So on Pradyu's date, like with Rishali, like Rishali's like, "Do you like cats?" And then the camera goes over to this cat just hanging on the street, and you kind of hear the cat going like meow, and I'm like, that was an amazing minutia moment. Like, I don't know how they captured that.
It was a weird cut.
That was great.
All right, last question is our favorite. What was the production schedule like for this show? So like it's very this is a thing that we were talking about when the show was on, was like, so like Prem, or what's her name?
Seema
comes into their house and like interviews them, goes over all these questions and stuff, and then like she like leaves. But then she comes back and gives a proposal. Like, is that the same day or is that like the next day? Like, I have to assume she has some time to come up with this proposal, but she's not flying out of Houston. So, like,
She does not have an Excel to just search through, so definitely takes a few days.
well, like, you can't have all this camera crew for that long. Like, you must have had done like a pre-interview and then fake the interview again. Like,
I would think she basically did like a bunch of the US trip in like one go. It could also be we didn't see all of the people that they were recording. Like there were probably like, 20 times more. And then we got to choose from, like they got to choose which ones had the most interesting storylines and characters.
I do think Chris is probably right that I bet there was some kind of Zoom Skype call where they introed and talked about what the goals were. And then she can fly in and then they just redo that conversation. And then she's like, and now I've already got the matches ready to go. Let's talk about the matches and you can film all that one day. I think that's I'm buying that as the way it works.
I mean, as we've talked about, is like production crews are expensive. So like that's the only way where it makes any sense to me. Because like these people are all across the country. It's not like they had 2 people in Houston. It was like they might have, because I didn't know who some of the other people were. But like,
was Vyasser also in Texas?
I don't know.
I thought there was like something about Austin in that.
Yeah,
so maybe
he
like she
was
just
in
did
Austin.
Maybe she was just like going back and forth between Houston and Austin for a couple
New
days.
Jersey.
Well, New Jersey. There's New Jersey. I bet someone got cut who was in Pennsylvania, and then they're just going back and forth there too. And
Well, it was also clear that she leaves and is in Mumbai, and then they had just kind of like talk via like video chat.
they FaceTime.
So
I quickly did some Googling. I can give some quick information. So it was shot in 2019. They contacted over 500 of Taparia's clients to find people who were willing to be a part of the thing. And then 12 agreed. And it took 6 months of filming.
Damn it! I was really gonna say 6 months, like max, because they have to like do dates and stuff.
yeah, I mean, like especially if Angel's like timetables, right, where it's like a 3-month dating situation for some of these people, like can't be short. Especially with the one guy that went on multiple video dates, like.
But the thing is, the pressure's on. Like, I imagine like they would be burning through it. Like, it's not like the production that's controlling this. I think it's the family that's controlling it.
I mean, it depends
I don't
on
think the
person.
family is controlling anything. I think the families are just glad to be a part of the show.
You don't think they're going to be pressuring like even more?
No. I mean, depends on your family, actually. I think there's like a whole range in this show. It totally depends on their motivations.
Yeah, I'd say at least like for some of the families on this show, like on the episodes we watched, it looked like they were really going to pressure people. But you've watched the entire season, so you have a better idea on the families.
All right, let's move on to our last category, the ratings. So if you're new to listening, the rating system works as we put them into buckets. We've got a top third, middle third, bottom third as a stack ranking of other reality shows. compared to other shows we've seen on the show. So not comparing to Breaking Bad or anything. We're comparing it to like Survivor and Crisley Knows Best, the worst garbage in the world. So what we got here is I'll go first. I think the show's top. I think it's top third, but I think that it has some pacing issues. I definitely got kind of bored watching two in a row. So, maybe I would take breaks between each episode, could be like, but I was like pretty interested in watching like the next date after the first episode. But I don't know how slow overall the show goes, but it's pretty short. It's 8 episodes, like 30 some minutes each. So like I'm gonna put it in the top. Brian, what do you got for me?
Bottom of the top. I actually thought like the pacing was okay. Like they kind of ran through stuff pretty quickly. Like it felt like other dating shows, just a little bit more condensed. And I really want to go see what's next.
Rob, what do you got for me?
I'm gonna put in the top third. I liked episode 1 more than episode 5, and I think the dates aren't actually that fun. The fun is just meeting the crazy and just seeing like the interesting characters. So I wonder how much it loses some steam through all 8 episodes as you're just like watching the characters you already know go on dates and just go through their journey. And like I just want to meet these crazy people and hear about how they're just wild, insane people.
Yeah, so quick note on that, like the show does a pretty good job in terms of adding new people as it goes along, but there's definitely other issues.
Anshul, what is your rating?
I mean, I binged the show and like have multiple chat groups and like multiple conversations happening. I think the show was super entertaining as someone who has grown up in the culture. The Bombay side of it was just like entertaining to me, just like amusing. The fascinating part was all of the first generation people in the US, and like I had a certain image of them and how I'm completely wrong about it in terms of how they perceive the world. But yeah, like I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I think it did lose out on steam at the end, and I have a couple of other issues which might potentially be spoilers. So I'll just hold on to those. But I'm definitely excited if they have a season 2.
Yeah, with starring Anshul,
Hey man, I'm all in.
Yeah, so top third from you. I don't know if you ever actually specified, but
Yeah, definitely top third.
Noah, what do you got for us?
Yeah, easy top third. I'm torn between bottom and the middle. Like, definitely not top of the top. Very fun to watch, but I think mostly because it's such a novelty, kind of in like insight into the culture, rather than something inherent about the show itself and how it's like produced or executed that makes it that good. So I'm definitely gonna watch this all.
All right. Well, there you have it. I think we're not going to do updates this week. We're going pretty long in the tooth on this one.
One more thing.
Okay.
How do we get Anshul on this show? Because Anshul, I gotta say, I don't think you're crazy enough. I think what's the hook? I think we gotta workshop some ideas of what's your weird thing that's gonna get you on the show. Because I think Steven's gonna meet you and be like, this guy's easy. I can definitely. This guy's awesome. I can definitely find some people for this guy. So like, what do we do to make her go? Oh, now Anshul.
Rob,
he's going to be a challenge.
There's a reason why I keep saying you can put me on the show, because I know I won't be interesting enough to be on the show. If you want a crazy, I think you can ask people to just listen to this podcast, and then I'm definitely on the show.
I mean, we've been analyzing and minutiaed it. Like it's, I don't know if that helps or hurts you.
I mean,
top podcast talent right now.
There you go. Maybe that'll get Chris on the show too. Chris and I both are on the show.
Oh yeah, they definitely take in next time. Yeah, maybe next time they'll have like different cultures try to be in this Indian matchmaking.
Right, like Seema is expanding her base.
What if they did a season and the season was everyone on the show is from the Who Put This On podcast, and that's the season.
I'll watch that.
We gotta find some marriages for all the Who Put This On people. They're giving up on love marriages. We gotta just go for marriages now.
All right. Well, you can find Anshul on the next season of Indian Matchmaking. You can find us on Twitter at Who Put This On. You can find us on Facebook.com/Who Put This On. You can email us questions and suggestions at whoputthison@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next time.
Test my name, test my name.